We're doing fine. It's nice to talk with you here, and nice to get your insight into what has been a wild week here for these Patriots. The firing of Jerod Mayo, now the interviewing of Mike Vrabel, which is going on today. Let's go ahead and start at the beginning, though. We were just talking about this, Tom. I'm not sure if you heard, but they waited a couple of days before firing Bill Belichick last year. This year, instead of waiting till Black Monday, they fired Jerod Mayo immediately after the game. Now, with all the nice things that Robert Kraft came out and said about Jerod Mayo, it seemed, and I think this has sort of spawned a lot of conspiracy theories here, but it does seem like that was almost punitive. Can you give us any insight into why they didn't wait until Monday to make this move?
I don't think it was punitive. I think it was more to show the urgency with which they wanted to demonstrate to their fan base. We've made a decision. We feel as if we made a mistake with Jerod and we were going to move quickly. Prolonging it, I think, and having meetings with Jerod in which he would be either defending himself or articulating a future vision wouldn't be fair. But I do and have gathered that the fact that he was fired an hour after the game and that he probably hadn't even finished showering and his family was still in the stadium when the news was breaking, most likely. To have to digest that, I think, was probably, in hindsight, something that the Krafts and the Patriots could have certainly done better. And they should have had the foresight to understand, look, if we give this to Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter or whoever else at 5:30, it's going to where will Jerod and his family be? And I think that was not something that they thought of in advance, and I think that was really hurtful to the family.
So we've seen multiple stories over the last couple of days. I don't know whether you want to call them exposés, smear campaigns, whatever, postmortems. We've seen them. It doesn't seem like we've gotten even a hint of Jerod Mayo's side of the story. Do you think that is forthcoming?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to him. I've reached out, haven't heard from him. And I know that others who are closer to him than I haven't heard from him either. So we'll see. I think that mostly what Jerod's explanation would be is, hey, they knew it was going to be a very difficult year. It was made a bit more difficult by the fact that we fanned in free agency and we fanned in the draft. And those things were certainly not my bailiwick, nor was offense my bailiwick. And we failed there for a large portion of the season. So I think what his main issue would be is, hey, you told me this was a breakfast ball when I got on the first tee. So I hit it like a breakfast ball. And then they said, you got to count that stroke, buddy. And I don't disagree with what has been reported from unnamed sources or named sources. I've heard from the same folks and I've observed it. I think that they were a disorganized franchise. Andy, in 1999 and 2000, when I spoke to people after Pete Carroll, the resounding and nearly unanimous conversation was, Pete was great, just tremendously disorganized. And you need somebody around you to organize. And Jerod can be a leader. He can be a tough guy. He can be a message giver once he hones that ability at the level he needs to. And he can be an X's and O's guy. But he can't do it with a bunch of guys around him that he, A, doesn't know, and B, are doing it for the first time.
We're talking with Tommy Curran, NBC Sports Boston. Tom, there's reporting and sort of quotes on the record, not necessarily with their name next to them, but quotes out there now suggesting that the last 4 games is really what tilted it. Those last 4 games included 2 games against Buffalo, one that they won and one that they competed against the starters. So it had to have been Arizona or the Chargers. If they had won one of those 2 games I just mentioned, Arizona or L.A., or maybe if they have even competed a little bit better, would Jerod Mayo still have a job right now?
I don't know, but they didn't. I mean, I don't know. If my aunt had wheels, she'd be a trolley.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened, but it didn't. And I think that anybody with 2 eyes and working gray matter could tell you, wow, it was the last 4 games. I told you that. I spoke to somebody well up in the organization. I said, there's a lot of reporting this week as we came into that Arizona game that Jerod could be fired if things don't go well. He goes, yeah, well, I mean, anything's possible. What are we talking about, 90-0 4 times in a row? No, 90-0 didn't happen, but the disarray and the lack of messaging and really the Chargers game was, to me, the linchpin of it. Between Ramondre on the field when Mayo articulated that he was going to be benched, to Drake May getting dinged, and then being out on the field when the game was well out of reach and Justin Herbert was out, just the disarray and lack of competitiveness against another first-year head coach, albeit an extremely experienced one, but it just gave you a demonstration of, boy, they could have lost 50-0. So I don't know what would have happened if they had beaten Buffalo the week after the Arizona game. I still don't think it would, it's a cumulative effect. I mean, honestly, as Phil and I were talking about it, Phil Perry and I were talking about it, I think the Ramondre Stevenson situation was a really big deal. In a vacuum, is that a big deal? No. At the end of the year, second to last game of the year, it's kind of that last straw type thing.
So as we work through this week, apparently Mike Vrabel is interviewing today. He got Ben Johnson on tap for tomorrow. But pretty much everybody, I think you've said it on these airwaves with Jones and Keefe, seems like everybody's accepted that Mike Vrabel is most likely to be the next head coach of the Patriots. So I'm going to accept that and say barring unforeseen circumstances. Okay, I want to go to the next.
That's the way to approach it. I agree.
Okay, so let's go to the next layer. Should I also accept that Josh McDaniels will be calling plays for Drake May next year?
The indications that I have been getting most currently are that I think that Vrabel might do the right thing here. And, okay, put it this way. There are no appointments that I can detect yet.
Okay.
Okay? Which I think is terrific, because I think it behooves Mike, if he is hired so quickly, to do something that Jerod wasn't able to. Interview your coordinators. Do an exhaustive search for your coordinators. Get Nick Caley and Tommy Rees and Josh McDaniels sitting down in front of the crafts. I don't care if they know McDaniels and Vrabel. They don't know McDaniels and Vrabel vis-a-vis Drake May, vis-a-vis how they'll work with this offensive line or this wide receiver room. Articulate it. What's your vision for this? Are you going to look at Drake May and say, Drake, we love you? At some point, you're going to be the centerpiece of our offense, but we have to run the 2018 Patriots offense right now because we're actually a tight end team with running backs and no wide receivers to speak of. So to me, I think that is an advantage. It's a huge advantage to Vrabel. We keep talking about all these things that went wrong with Jerod. Well, what's the greatest advantage Vrabel has? Probably that he got poop canned last year and had a year to put together a formula for how he would do things and network to have plans and actually do research on teams that he could conceivably be coaching for. I would imagine that he knows Jalen Polk and, Mike Onwenu and Cole Strange's situations inside and out, which nobody, do you think Brian Flores, I'm not besmirching him, or Ben Johnson has any clue about the Patriots personnel at this juncture? Highly doubt it.
Probably not. Tom, when Robert Kraft spoke to the media, he said that one of his big mistakes and missteps here was the rush to hire Jerod Mayo. Are they rushing to hire Mike Vrabel, or are they rushing the process, I guess, in your opinion?
Yes, they are rushing it. No, that's not a bad thing. They know who they want. They've identified who they want. They went through this last year. Had Mike Vrabel been available last year, and all things being equal, probably would have been a pretty close conversation between Mayo and Vrabel. So to me, you can have Liam Cohen in from Tampa, the offensive coordinator. You can have Ben Johnson in and hear their visions. But after experiencing what you just did with a first-time head coach, there's only one experienced head coach on the market who you look at and say, guy's pretty good. I don't care what happened in Tennessee. That team was really abysmal along the offensive line. So I would say, look, there's only one guy who fits all the qualifications that we need, which is experienced, passionate, physical, tough, disciplined. Everybody else would have question marks about. So
Tom,
I think they are rushing it, but I don't hate them for it.
Okay, I won't hold you to this, but on January 9th, who do you expect will be making the number 4 overall pick for the New England Patriots in the 2025 NFL Draft? Who will have that final say, final decision? Tom.
Huh.
Tom.
I know. I'm thinking.
Tom.
Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel.
That's what I said a little bit ago.
Interesting.
I think Vrabel's going to have final say on the roster and the draft pick.
I think he ought to.
Let's
He ought to. And again,
Good answer.
can you go find that athletic story they did last week? Have you guys leaned on that at all with Vrabel? There was an athletic story. There was a story in the Athletic last week that really delved into. It was kind of one of those, hey, I'm out of work. Can we put my vision out there in a long story? And it's good, but they don't get to his vision until the last 4 paragraphs. And in doing so, they talk about the 3 things that Mike needs, and he articulates the 3 things. One is an ownership group that understands, that articulates what they expect. We articulate what we can do, and we can tell them how we're going to try and accomplish it. Okay, good. That's something I don't think that Mayo really had the opportunity to do in specifics. Mm-hmm. Second was to have a personnel department and somebody else who shares the vision of what the football team should look like, and that's in terms of X's and O's and team building and scheme. How the hell does he know whether or not Elliott Wolf shares that vision? And what has Elliott Wolf done that Mike Vrabel has probably read the headlines on for the last 3 weeks to say, wow, that's a guy I want to definitely work with? And then the third thing was to either have a quarterback in place or have a clear path to getting one. So the Patriots have 2 out of 3. And I think that Elliott Wolf in the personnel department has not draped itself in glory either in production that we can point to or in the amount of time they've spent finger pointing at an overmatched coaching staff. It's not their fault. They didn't decide Chuk Okorafor and Caden Wallace, the coaching staff, could play left tackle. That was the personnel department. So stop singing that song.
All right, Tommy, before we let you go here, the Las Vegas Raiders
just call. I'm having fun.
Oh, I'm having fun too. The Vegas
just
Raiders
edit out the long pauses on the answers.
No, we got to keep those. That's his signature. It's a trademark.
Long pauses, but don't you want considered answers? I've been going through this since Dennis and Callahan. They would complain about it. I'm not. They used to complain, oh, it's a little pulsing. I'm like, I'm trying to think so I don't just blurt something out. You got a lot of blurters in the market. Let's not be a blurter.
We got 2 blurters right here in this room.
Absolutely. I am the biggest blurter there is.
No question. The Vegas Raiders just fired Tom Telesco. It seems like they're clearing the runway here. The Tom Brady aspect, is that something that the Kraft should be worried about in their pursuit of Mike Vrabel?
They should worry about every friggin' thing, if you ask me. Because if you're going to put all your eggs in that basket, you probably should put that basket in a Brinks truck so nothing breaks. So to me, yeah, they should worry about everything.
Okay, we'll leave it right there then. Tommy Curran, thanks so much for the time. Great to talk with you, and we'll talk to you again next week.